For a trainee program, I would say start early and just apply. Because there's so many, but they're competitive. So I got a lot of rejections too and a lot of stupid interviews. But at the end, you just have to keep on going until you find something. My grades were never that good. I think people should notice that after saying that I was not a good student. But still, I got hired. So that doesn't mean that every company looks at grades. And there are a lot of companies that do. Don't get me wrong, but lots of companies also just look at personality. So find a company that also suits you. And if you get rejected, there's probably a reason that it could not suit you. So I applied to a lot of companies that definitely did not suit me.
Welcome back to the Fresh Engineer podcast, where fresh engineers share their stories. I'm your host and mechanical engineer Anna Reich, and in today's episode I'm talking to Naomi Bakker, who is a mechanical engineer from the Netherlands who took a new direction after her bachelor studies and is now working as a portfolio manager at the truck manufacturing company Scania in Södertälje here in Sweden. We met while studying the same master's program, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Management at KTH here in Stockholm, and we recently realized that we're almost neighbors, so she's definitely the guest who had the shortest trip to come here. And we had a chat about why mechanical engineering is a great study option if you have no idea what you want to do with your career, why she decided to follow a trainee program after finishing master studies, and her experience as a trainee at Scania, how to take advantage of being a generalist rather than a specialist in your career, and what she does as a portfolio manager, and how her engineering background helps her even in the rather non-technical role she has now. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm great, thanks. So good to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's start all the way in the beginning. Where are you from? What were you like as a kid? And where did you grow up?
I'm from the Netherlands. I also grew up there to a Japanese mom and a Dutch dad. So already have a lot of cultural differences at home. What was I like as a kid? I think I was a very annoying kid. I was definitely not the best kid at school. My parents had to really chase me to do my homework. But I had a lot of energy and I still think I have that. So yeah, that was me as a kid. I think I was terrible for my parents at least.
And moving on to your high school days, what were your favorite subjects in high school?
I don't think I really defined a favorite subject, but if I would look back and choose now, I would probably say it was math and physics. But I never really liked the teachers there, so I think that's why I never really defined it.
And how did that impact your career aspirations?
I learned not to care who the teacher is. And maybe that's, again, that comes back to me being a bad student, that I didn't care what they said and I always did what I wanted myself. And it worked out quite well. I still followed into an engineering path, so I didn't really care that the teachers were bad or annoying. I just enjoyed still the subjects and I was good at it, so I just continued in it.
What career options did you consider when you finished high school?
I don't think I considered any, to be honest. I was so clueless, and I think it's actually somewhere I'm still clueless. It's kind of sad to say after a bachelor's and the master's being like, oh. But no, I still remember when having to choose what I wanted to study. I didn't know. I just knew that I should go into the engineering because I'm the best in those kind of subjects. During high school, I actually wanted to become a doctor. Then I had biology for many years. I hated it. So yeah, I didn't like that. So I just decided, okay, maybe I should do something that I do like, and therefore became more into the maths and physics side. Chose the most broad bachelors that you could choose just because I didn't know what I wanted. So it was a very unclear path.
Did you have any engineers in your family or your acquaintances? No.
I'm the first one. I'm the black sheep of the family. My parents still say that. Like both my parents worked at the same company. My sister works at the same company, and I'm just all the way out there.
I can relate to that.
Dinners are always fun.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the same, and you're like, what does that mean? What does this tax thing mean exactly? I don't understand.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for high school students who, or like for yourself maybe when you were deciding what to study and how to make this decision in a different way? Or
I would mostly say, like, I'm happy with the decisions I made, but that's because I stopped caring about who was representing that class. So just think about for yourself, what do you want to do? Do you like, which subjects do you like, and go further in that. Don't get focused on, oh, but this is the teacher and I really don't like the teacher. Find something just that you like. It doesn't matter who's giving it. You can still just do the assignments.
I'd like to talk a bit about your bachelor studies. So you studied mechanical engineering at the Hague University of Applied Science, right?
Yes.
In the Netherlands. Could you talk a little bit how you decide to go into the field and what the experience was like? Was it what you expected?
So yeah, I chose it because I didn't know what to choose. And for the people that don't know, mechanical engineering is the broadest engineering you can do. I always made the joke in past, like if you don't know what to do and you're more like economics and that kind of stuff, you always do law. Mechanical engineering is exactly the same for the engineering side. Don't know what to do, you do mechanical engineering.
It's very true.
And it works great. It's perfect. But that's the reason I chose it. Because I had no idea what to do. Did it live up to my expectations? Yes and no, I think. The first few years, I really loved it. I wasn't always really good in it, but I really enjoyed the classes. But I think after doing my first internship, I found out I don't like mechanical engineering that much.
Okay.
Because that's the moment I realized I don't want to be the person doing the calculations myself.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, it lived to my expectations. I didn't like it at the end that much. But still, I finished it. I continued because I feel like, why would I stop? But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Okay.
I wouldn't take it back. Let's take it, put it there.
Yeah. What were the most difficult parts of the studies for you?
Some of the classes. Material science, not my thing. That was definitely the hardest part. Like that killed me a few times. It was at the end always doable. The teachers really supported me. So, and if I really noticed, if you put the extra effort in a teacher, the teacher will always put extra effort in you. So just by showing up, being there, asking questions, making yourself visible, especially in the classes that you're bad in, when you have an exam that you failed, and you come back to me and you just ask, okay, why did I fail this? Like, how does that work? They would take more time for you if you already put the extra effort in the beginning. So I definitely use that.
And how did you stay motivated when you knew, like, this is not really what I want to work in later to finish?
Because I always think it's a really good base. Mechanical engineering you can use for anything. You can go to any path afterwards. Therefore, it doesn't actually even matter that you did mechanical engineering. It's not that you're steered into that exact direction. So that motivated me a lot. It's not useless time by any means, but also just the idea that you could do something else afterwards. I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, but I was focused more on like the technical and business side, so that it's possible to do your master's afterwards, and that's perfect. That's all I needed. So then you don't need to come back, start a new bachelor's, and basically go all over again. It makes no sense.
Do you have any advice for students on maybe the first day of their studies? How do they make it through? Because through material science, through all the annoying stuff.
This is actually always so typical. I keep up with your work. I definitely did not do that, and I crammed everything in the last few weeks. So that's a technique. It worked well at the end of the day, but it could have gone better. But at the end of the day, I'd say just have fun. Make sure that you have people around you that you like, even though if it's not from your studies or your university. Most of my friends were from a different university, and I think that made me go through it with everything, because they could also help me. There were also, all my friends were engineers, so they also could help me with all my classes if I had a question, but they would also motivate me. So I would say have people around you.
You already mentioned that you were interested in entrepreneurship, and I also saw on LinkedIn that you did a minor in entrepreneurship at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
How did the spark start of being interested in entrepreneurship?
I think this was actually very random, because I just got an email from my bachelor's university saying, hey, we have a few places for people that want to go on exchange to UC Berkeley. I didn't know anything about UC Berkeley at that time. Didn't know much about entrepreneurship, but I thought I can go to America, California. Sounds fun. Never really thought about doing an exchange before that period, but I just got an email, and I was talking to some friends about it, and this random guy sat next to us, and I was just like, oh yeah, I saw this email, I'm thinking of applying maybe. And he's like, oh, I did that last year, it was amazing, you should definitely go. So then I called up my parents and was like, yeah, I'm thinking of doing this, what do you think? They're like, yeah, just apply, it'll be amazing. So I went through this whole process, got selected, was there. In my first lecture, I suddenly hear how good of a university it is. Did not even know. So that day I called up my mom, I'm like, did you know that UC Berkeley is #1 public university in the US? She's like, you did not know? So yeah, that was a great score. And the only thing that they let you do during this exchange was entrepreneurship in technology. So you were already applied to that minor kind of. So there was not much choice, but it just sounded fun. And I was like, why not?
And were there any takeaways that you had from that got you interested or surprised you?
It just mostly got me interested, because I have never been in contact with those kind of classes as much in my bachelor's, for this minor at least. That really kind of sparked the interest. It's just, you think in a very different way. In mechanical engineering, you always think about numbers, how to just calculate something, how to get the right answer. And then you go into entrepreneurship, there are so many right answers, there's so many possibilities, and that was just a difference that I really liked.
And then you did decide also to do your master's in entrepreneurship, or Entrepreneurship and Innovation Management. So how did you decide to do that? Why did you decide to go to Sweden?
So one thing I knew was I didn't want to do my master's in the Netherlands. And I had a friend that also studied the same master year before me. So I could also ask her a lot, how was it for her? Did she like it? And I actually applied for multiple universities and I got in Sweden and Denmark, both in my first choice of masters. Then I just basically had to choose which one did I want it. And actually, I didn't really know. So it took me a while because at the university in Denmark, I had to really put down you have a lot of space of putting your own classes down. And at KTH, where we went, it just gets, this is the list of classes that you get. So when I was looking at the classes I wanted to take and seeing how that would fit in the 2 years, it was a lot of the same kind of classes as that we got at KTH. So then I was like, yeah, why would I make my own program and probably have much more overlap than a program that's basically already set and therefore having classes more aligned towards each other. Yeah. So I think my choice came also quite a lot from there. But of course, also it was COVID. You didn't know what's happening in other countries. So with my friend living in Sweden, studying here, I knew at least how it was here. And that gave us some security of, okay, at least there are classes. At least I can move there. At least there's also a bit of social life. So that's why I chose Sweden.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. That's how we met, right?
Exactly.
So what was the experience like to study, just to say it again, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Management at KTH in Stockholm? What was that like?
I thought it was very fun, but I think that's mostly, again, because the group people were really fun. I'm a very social person, so I really focused on that. Yeah, I think it was very interesting because people had a very different background. When I was at UC Berkeley, it was mostly really hardcore engineers also. So like the mechanical engineers and all those kind of people that come together and take these innovation classes or entrepreneurship classes. Here, I felt like it was quite a big difference in people also with working experience, just rolled out of their bachelors, even from their second masters. And so that made it very interesting to have a very diverse group, also different nationalities. And then you learn just so much by observing and understanding what people are saying. So my experience was great. I also really enjoyed that it was a lot of group projects. Yeah. There are not that many exams. And I hate sitting in a room just making an exam for a few hours. It's okay. But then that means you have to learn so many things by heart. I feel like that's always a little bit stupid, learn everything by heart. So that's why the group projects made it more social, first of all, but also more possibilities of really creating something that you stand behind instead of just answering a question.
Did you have a favorite project?
Well, I think people of our masters will hate me if I say this, but I really like project management. I know I'm actually really good in it too. Okay. People did not like that.
The book over there.
Yeah, I have the book too. The book was terrible, or reading the book was terrible. The content is good, but boring book.
So you finished that master's degree in 2021, right? So 2 years ago, approximately. And you basically started working right out of university. How did you make that happen?
Well, I applied, I think I applied for my job in December or January, far before I started, far before I finished even the master. I started as a trainee at Scania, a truck manufacturer. And if you want to apply for trainee programs, you have to be very early. For the people that don't know what a trainee program is, that's basically that you see a company from different perspectives. So usually you start at one department, then you change after 3 to 6 months, and depending on the company, how many times you change. So for me, it was 15 months of the trainee program, and we did 4 different rotations in that. So that gives a really broad understanding of how the company works and why it's fun to work there, and getting also a network inside the company. So I chose to do that because basically I didn't know what I wanted to do. A recurring topic. So I would definitely recommend people, if they don't know what to do out of their masters, find something like that.
Was it a specific direction of the trainee program, or is it just a general trainee program of the company?
It was a general, but Scania's trainee program is quite big. We're 25 people, and we're all divided in different areas. So I was officially the sales marketing trainee within IT, tech, and digitalization. But we also had R&D people that were also within IT, tech, or digitalization, or within IT. We had finance, production and logistics, hardcore ITers also, sales and marketing trainees, purchasing trainees. I think that's it. Oh no, we also had an HR trainee. So broad.
And what advice would you give someone looking for their first job, or looking maybe for their first trainee program, or the trainee program to job?
Well, if you want for a trainee program, I would say start early and just apply I apply, because there's so many, but they're competitive. So I got a lot of rejections too, and a lot of stupid interviews. But at the end, you just have to keep on going until you find something. At the end, like, my grades were never that good. I think people should notice that after saying that I was not a good student. But still, I got hired. So that doesn't mean that every company looks at grades. And there are a lot of companies that do. Don't get me wrong, but lots of companies also just look at personality. And that's what I really enjoy at Scania, at least. So find a company that also suits you. And if you get rejected, there's probably a reason that it could not suit you. So I applied to a lot of companies that did not suit me.
And what job do you do now? What is the job title and how does it fit into the scope of Scania?
So I work now, I just finished the trainee program 6 months ago, and I work as a portfolio manager within services. So that sounds very fancy, but basically I work as a bridge between the strategy and the operations. So making sure that we're doing the right things versus the strategy, how to balance resources, how to prioritize within other business stakeholders. So it's just making sure we're doing the right services for the customers, for the dealerships. So if your your truck breaks down, to bring it to the workshop and the dealer, how to make sure that they're digitalized. That's basically the services that I work with.
Okay, so the portfolio consists of different services that you...
Yeah, so we have 3 services, and basically one is customer digitalization, the other one is workshop digitalization, and the other one is a bit a random one in between, but it's a retail support, so franchising, workshop layouts, tools and all that, and like more physical stuff. So those are the portfolios that I support.
Okay, and what does your workplace look like? What are you wearing? Where do you work? What do you do in a day?
So my office is in Södertälje. That's about 30 kilometers outside of Stockholm. I'm usually there like twice a week because we also have a Stockholm office, and it's a very different kind of office. So Södertälje, we're sitting across from the chassis production, so the real factory.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of trucks. It's close to the highway. It's close to the train tracks. It's very industrial, but it's a very chill environment. So you don't need to care what you wear. Okay, maybe don't wear flip-flops, but I've seen people wear flip-flops. So I still remember my first day at the job, first time at Scania ever, picking up my laptop also. And it was still really COVID, so there were not many people going to the office. And I come out of the bus, and there's this guy walking in front of me, flops, short pants, and a t-shirt with just this big graph on it. I'm like, wow, interesting outfit for like this area. And he belongs to the same building as I did. And I was just there in like in nice pants, and a blouse, and then a blazer on top. And I was like, I think I didn't get the dress code completely right. But then when I was inside, like, I also saw somebody in a full suit. So it was, people can do whatever they want.
I guess it's always better to be a bit overdressed.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in your first day. Yes. But then I'd say like the Stockholm office is very different in that perspective, like where it's more co-working area. So you see lots of people from different departments, because the building I work in Södertälje, that's just people that work in services. And then the office here is just very mixed. So you see people that you know from IT or R&D, and you just chat. It's really good mix, I would say.
Okay, and then what do you do in a day?
What I do in a day? If I go to the office in Södertälje, mostly meetings actually. I don't know why, but those days are full of meetings. But like on other days, I do a lot of work to make sure like how do we work in the portfolio. So I mostly focus on how can we improve the way of working. So I would say it's somewhat a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, and just aligning with my colleagues how they think, what are the problems they have, where do they struggle, and how can I make sure that is improved.
What are your favorite and least favorite parts of that job?
It becomes a boring answer, but the favorite part is my colleagues. No, I've really good colleagues, so I really enjoy being at the office. I'll say I'm usually like 4 days a week at the office, so that already shows like 2 days a week in Stockholm, 2 days in Södertälje. So I really like the people aspect. My least favorite part, I always hate the little time that you get in between 2 meetings. If you have a whole day planned full of meetings and you're like almost finished with one meeting, and it goes a little bit over, but you have another meeting that you have to walk to, and you're like, oh, okay, stress. That's the part I hate, really. Yeah, I think that's every job, to be honest.
Yeah, there needs to be like a break in between. Like it's
exactly. Actually, at Scania officially we have that. So if it's a 30 minutes meeting, you have 5 minutes. That should be your break. And if it's an hour meeting, it's 10 minutes. Nobody does that. During COVID, apparently they stopped doing it because people just start using more time because you didn't need to switch rooms anymore.
Yeah.
And after COVID, going back to like old things, like horrible.
What is one misconception about your job or your industry that a lot of people get wrong?
I think I've got the comment before, like, why are you in trucks? Like, you don't seem like a truck crazy person or anything. I think that's, people always assume, it's like, okay, if you're going into manufacturing or like these old hardcore companies, that you should be a certain kind of type of person. I would say that's not true.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about trucks before starting at Scania. I really started liking the product by being at Scania. And even though you don't even need to like the product, to be honest. So I think that's a misconception, that they feel like, oh, it's a dirty company. It's a company. It's so strange industry, manufacturing. I think people just don't like it because of that. And I understand that from their perspective. Like, that's how I also kind of thought in the beginning, like, okay, let's see where I'm ending up at. But it's been a great company. They, like, yes, trucks is a big part of the company, but yeah, you just don't need to be tied to what you studied to be exactly what you are now. So I think a good example is I have a friend from a trainee program. She studied management, mostly business kind of things. She became the HR trainee at Scania, and now she's a business analyst in autonomous. Like, these are very different things, actually. And therefore, I think it really shows, even though you don't have a technical background or like you're really focused in one direction, you can still become everything. And that's the beauty of actually working.
What are some other industries where you could work as a portfolio manager?
I think everywhere. I know my predecessor went, for example, to PostNord. So for not Swedish people, or not people that are living in Sweden, that's just the mailing company of Sweden. But basically, I think you can go everywhere. I don't think I'll stay in portfolio management myself, to be honest, the rest of my life. But I think almost all companies that have a bit like a technical side that is relatively big can use a portfolio manager. So this is a very broad perspective.
Yeah. So yeah, you could go like anywhere.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Do you think it would be difficult to go to a different industry, or would it be, like a normal thing to transfer to a different industry?
I think it could be a very normal thing. Of course, you're never 100% sure, but I don't see the job aspect as the problem. I think it's mostly like adjusting to the culture, getting to know the new people. That's what I think, seeing if you actually enjoy the new company. I think those are the harder parts than actually if you switch from portfolio management to another company in portfolio management.
I'm asking because there's a lot of people that write me with concerns about being stuck in one industry because they pick it and then, not being able to change it.
Yeah, okay, I get that. I've never seen that as a problem.
Yeah.
At Scania, it's very, very normal to even jump between roles. Like, you could be the one day you can work in R&D as a specialist and then move on to services and be like, actually my colleague has done that. He was a specialist somewhere in R&D and now he's in IT platforms at services. Like, you can jump a lot between areas. You're not stuck to something. But I feel like that's very Scania unique, actually, because when I told my dad, like, oh yeah, you can, like, I don't need to fixate on something to do now, I can just jump around. He was like, nah, I don't believe you. Like, take some more time in the company, then you'll find out. And at a certain point on LinkedIn, I liked a post of this lady, and she's been at Scania forever. And my dad just looked at her profile and saw that she's been jumping around, and now she's actually CEO of Mercedes-Benz truck. And like, she's been jumping around so much in her Scania career that she didn't really stick to a position, and now she's a CEO of a company. Like, that shows you don't need to be in one area the whole time. You can find something else, be creative, and that also can build your strengths to actually come up higher if you want in a company, or just your skill set.
Yeah, I bet it can be an advantage to have seen all different parts.
Exactly. So it's just how I see always is, do you want to become a specialist, so know something deeply in one area, or do you want to become a generalist, and therefore probably you're more management-ish type because you have to have a bigger scope of understanding, but less of, like, a less deeper understanding of everything. And that's just the conclusion that you have to make for yourself. I know that I'm a generalist because I'm not good in going deep into one subject.
Coming from the Netherlands, what has it been like to study and work and live in Sweden?
It's been really good, but Sweden is just such an easy country actually to move to. Like, everybody speaks English, you never really have problems. Like, the first time you move and you have to get your personal number, that's the hassle of your life because everything is in Swedish and that kind of stuff. But once you are over those kind of hurdles, everything becomes so much easier. So yeah, I would say been good. It's I have a lot of friends here, but it's mostly international friends. So it would be nice to have a little bit more Swedish friends but Swedish people are quite closed off. So it's a little bit harder to find them or to make sure that they stay.
Yeah.
But life has been great here. The winters are long, but summers are amazing.
Did you notice any differences in the study culture or way of studying or even work culture?
For studying, I'm not sure if I dare to say as like my bachelor's and master's were very different in their core. So if the bachelor's would have been here, would I see a difference? Maybe, but now I can't really say actually. But for working, I'd say yes. Maybe but Dutch people are very direct.
Yes.
And with this directness comes also a lot of negative feedback, but in a positive way, if I can say it that way. So in Netherlands, it's very normal to give negative feedback, but not like people don't take it personally. It's just how to improve yourself, how to do better next time. And it could be very harsh during the meeting and after work, just go and grab beer together. Like it's still just as good friends. Here in Sweden, they're a little bit more conflict averse, and therefore it's very hard to get feedback of what can you actually do better. At least that's one thing I notice. And I feel like I'm asking people, so they're always like, yeah, but to the best of your abilities, you did great. I'm like, what does that even mean? So I think that's a huge cultural difference I've noticed.
Did you have any clashes with you giving someone too harsh feedback for their liking?
I think it's very easy to, without you noticing, adjust. So if nobody gives negative feedback around you, you start doing it less yourself too.
Yeah.
I want to say that's good. It's better to still give negative feedback. But yeah, I think at this moment, I haven't had this problem that I gave somebody too bad feedback. Maybe I should put myself in that situation just to see what happens.
Little challenge.
Exactly.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
Would be fun, I think.
Are there any ways in which being an engineer or having studied engineering has impacted your life in other ways? Like maybe the way you think about things or things that you notice?
I think the mentality if something's broken, I can fix that myself. Mostly about my bicycle. Like if something happens, I'm like, oh no, I can do it myself. I don't need to bring it to a bicycle shop. But also, like those kind of things, I think is very clear. Other things, I think it's hard to say actually. If there's anything that's really on top of my mind, like that really made me change.
Do you notice anything in your non-engineering friends maybe where you're different?
Yeah, I think maybe I just take a lot of things from more the logic side. As engineering is, of course, like if you put 1 + 1, it's always 2, like it doesn't change. So it's always, engineering is always based on logic, except entrepreneurship maybe. Yeah. But like mechanical engineering. So I think I take a lot of things from the logic side, and therefore I'm quite realistic. Is it possible? Is it feasible? Can we actually do it? What other people could dream of.
What are your career goals going forward? And where do you see yourself going, let's say, in the next 5 years?
It's becoming an interview now.
Yes.
My career goals are like, I do want to become a manager. I don't know what time frame, but my interest is a lot to people and how they can develop themselves. So I'd like to be more people focused and actually an area focused. But also I'm aiming for an international career. So probably I see myself again abroad.
Yeah. Do you have a country in mind?
No, not specifically. I would like to go to Asia and then develop city. But if you send me to Tokyo or Seoul or China, like I'll take it. Like no questions asked. So yeah, I don't think I have a very clear path, but I have a sketch, so to say.
Okay, I think a sketch is good.
Yeah, it's good enough.
You can fill in the colors. Okay, let's end with some rapid fire questions if you're up for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just say the first thing that comes to mind. You don't need to think about it too much. What is one business book you think every engineer should read?
Okay, I'm not sure if this is for every engineer, but I have two in my mind. The one is the Phoenix Project. It's a very IT-based book. So it's very easy to read. This it's about this guy that's in IT, and from the one to the other day, he becomes like head of IT or something. But there are just a lot of problems. They're always firefighting. So he's trying to change the IT organization to something that's more stable and predictable. That's not every time that's when a problem occurs that everybody has to change direction and make sure that this problem is solved. And it's written in a story-based storyline. So it makes it very easy just to read. It gives you a lot of perspective on how IT industries work. So that's something I would recommend. And the other one is Culture Map, where it's not only engineering. I would say this is more like everybody should read that. But that's focused on on how different cultures interact in different ways. So, for example, like the Dutch people being very direct, it would then write a little story about how that actually kind of works. And then on the other side, if it's like in Japan where they're not direct at all, they talk between the lines, lots of fluffy wording. They say A, but they actually mean B, and you can only understand if you actually like their cultural language, not just the Japanese language. And I think that's a very interesting book to get more perspective on how people talk and what they mean.
Yeah, okay, I'm taking notes. That's great. What is one place that everyone absolutely has to visit if they come to Stockholm?
Rosendalsträdgården.
Okay.
I love that place. It's a little fika place on kind of in the forest. Fika, great spot, lovely if it's sunny. Oh, best place ever.
Nice. And fika, to explain, is a combination of coffee and kaka, which is cake. So it's like a break where you have some coffee, maybe some cake. A Swedish thing.
Very Swedish.
What fact or experience surprised you the most when you started working after university?
How much of your knowledge from university you don't need. Like, I don't understand sometimes why they, like, I understand why they take people with university degrees. Sometimes I feel like it's really not needed.
What is your favorite blog or podcast?
I would say at this moment, it's a Dutch one though. It's NRC Vandaag. So NRC is one of the newspapers in the Netherlands. And then every working day, they take one subject and just tell a 20-25 minute story about it. And it's always news related. I think that's super interesting.
And if you had to totally abandon your current career and start a completely different career, what would you do?
I'll probably be more in sales, to be honest. If I'm not, like, if you mean if I'm not an engineer, then I assume I'd be in sales, because that's also very people focused, still with a strategic mindset of how can you sell something and actually make profit on it. So yeah, I assume I'll do that.
Well, thank you so much, Naomi. It's been great. For the people who want to learn more about you or maybe connect with you after watching this, where can they go?
You can find me on LinkedIn, but I have a very generic name, so I think you can find
link your subject.
Yeah, you can. Let's link it in the bio. What do you call it?
Yeah, the
description. Find it there.
Maybe some people will message you on LinkedIn then.
That's fine.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.
Now, that was a good one. I love that Naomi brought up how there's not one type of person that fits in at a manufacturing company, because that's a stereotype I'm also frequently faced with, and I'm just so over it. So I'm always down for a bit of myth busting. Naomi's journey also shows the diversity of options you have after studying mechanical engineering, and that you can easily take your career in a more businessy direction and will still benefit from your engineering background. So thank you again, Naomi Bakker, for coming onto the show and sharing your story. You can find the show notes for this episode on freshengineer.io/podcast/7, including everything we talked about today. Next week, I will talk to an energy engineer about moving from Taiwan to Europe, identifying good internship opportunities, and one big misconception about the energy industry. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts so you don't miss it. And here's a little sneak peek.
When I was going to graduate from my high school, Taiwan was talking about phasing out nuclear energy because of what happened in Japan, the Fukushima earthquake. So at that point, I feel like maybe I can go for energy engineering. And plus, the university I went to was actually the first one they started this energy engineering program. So I thought that it would be very interesting to see.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fresh Engineer podcast, where fresh engineers share their stories.